Hello and welcome to SophieCo. I'm Sophie Shevardnadze. The latest round of Israeli-Palestinian negotiations has yet to bear fruit. But while the sides voiced their disagreement on almost every issue publicly, the talks still hold much promise. What is to be done with the settlements? What will happen to Jerusalem? And how will Palestine and Israel resolve the most pressing diplomatic problem of our time? We asked the Foreign Minister of the Palestinian administration, Riyad Al-Maliki.
The conflict in Palestine has been raging for decades. Endless talks try to proclaim peace, only to see war flare up once more. Now, after 5 years of silence, there is again hope. For the world's most powerful diplomats, brokering a deal is a question of glory. For Israel and Palestine, it is about their very survival. How much are they willing to give up to end bloodshed in the Holy Land? Is peace finally coming to the Middle East?
Dr. Riyad Al-Maliki, it's really great to have you on our program today. Palestinian Foreign Minister, welcome. So Mahmoud Abbas has said recently that good progress has been made in negotiations with Israel, and there's a possibility of prolonging the talks. So what have the Palestinian negotiators managed to get from the Israeli side at this point?
Well, first of all, the person who's in charge and responsible to declare if there is any progress in the negotiations is Secretary Kerry, and nobody else is. We cannot talk about progress or lack of progress. Are we going to prolong? No one is talking about prolonging the already allocated time for the negotiations, which is really 9 months. We have reiterated clearly that we are sticking to the original date, which should end by the 29th of April this year. And so any talk about prolonging the negotiations or the talks is premature and lacks, of course, knowledge of the status of the negotiations. If we reach a stage where what is needed is an extra day to arrive at an agreement that needs to be signed, maybe we'll talk about prolonging it for an extra day. But I don't think, based on what we have seen so far, that there is any need for prolonging the negotiations.
Mm-hmm. No. What are the main obstacles at this point that remain in the negotiations?
Well, main obstacles are very clear, that Israel is not seriously interested in the negotiations. They are using the negotiations as means to maintain the status quo, to build more settlements, and to put the blame on the Palestinians. When they try to divert the negotiations from the original final status issues into newly presented issues like the Jewish nature of the State of Israel, like the security arrangements on the Jordan Valley. These are not issues of the final status that we have agreed to discuss since Oslo until today. So it's very clear that introducing new topics in the last minute is a reflection of Israeli intentions to divert attention, to bring problematic issues on the table in order for the negotiations to reach a total deadlock.
Mm-hmm. Mr. Abbas also said that if the negotiations fail, then Palestine would revert to other options. What are the other options?
Well, we don't have that many options, other options. We have only one option. If the negotiations really fail, then, of course, we have to go either to an international conference, and we have been talking for so many years about the international conference in Moscow, as a continuation of international collective efforts to bring about a solution to the conflict, or we will go back to the United Nations seeking membership to all specialized agencies, applying to sign protocols and conventions, and seeking full membership in the United Nations.
So Palestine seeking full membership in the United States depends on the negotiations? United Nations depends on the negotiations?
Well, we have committed ourselves to a 9-month period, and we are respecting that. We are not going to do anything, until the 29th of April. After that, we will see what are the outcomes and what are the options. And so until this moment, we should not talk about plan B, rather than, trying to see how we could maximize the existing efforts to make the current efforts initiated by Secretary Kerry successful ones.
Will Palestine accept Jerusalem as a capital for joint capital for both states?
We are accepting Jerusalem to be an open city, West Jerusalem as capital of Israel, and East Jerusalem as the capital of Palestine, and that people can move freely from east to west, from west to east without any problem, respecting religious freedom for all religions. And this is really how Jerusalem should look like.
What do you think of the Canadian proposal to establish international control over the old city?
Well, I was aware of these, what you call it, official / non-official kind of efforts, Canadian efforts to present some ideas to all city of Jerusalem. But this is really only one of so many other floating ideas about Jerusalem and the old city, or the holy sites within Jerusalem. Jerusalem is the capital of Palestine, and we cannot accept anything less than East Jerusalem being the capital of Palestine. Internationalizing the city, or bringing an international body or international force to oversee, the city is unacceptable. And that's why Canadian efforts are appreciated, but could stay as an exercise, what you call it, academic exercise, that was done by a group of academic / former diplomats who tried really just to engage Canada or to use Canadian funds to do some kind of academic work.
Mahmoud Abbas has also said recently that the right for the Palestinian refugees and their descendants to return to the territories of Israel cannot be negotiated away. So is the right to return more important than the establishment of the Palestinian statehood?
No. The issue of refugees, rather than the right of return, is one of the final status issues. And we want really to solve this issue as much as we want to solve the other pending issues. So right of return is part of the discussions about how to solve the issue, the issue of the refugees. I want to remind you that former President Clinton in 2000 has presented what's so-called Clinton parameters to try really to solve, the refugee issue and the refugee problem. And at that particular time, he made reference to 4 categories. One category is that, the Palestinian refugees could stay where they are today in the hosting countries, pending that the hosting countries will accept that. And then they will get compensation. They are in Jordan, they are in Syria, they are in Lebanon, etc. The second parameter is that, to go to a third country. And this is really pending that the third country will accept them. Could be United States, could be Canada, could be Australia, etc., etc. The third option is that, they will go back to the state of Palestine, when the state of Palestine
well,
is...
that's what I'm asking. Could that be an option, actually?
Yes, absolutely.
Because Israel wouldn't accept?
No. Accept or not accept, that's their problem. But, the solution should overcome what they accept or not to accept. Because we are talking about an international mechanism that will solve the problem, and the problem won't be solved only by Israeli acquiescence to this. It has to do with also the international involvement in finding a solution to this problem of the Palestinian refugees. Since 1948, we're talking about 5 million.
Palestinian state could be an option also,
yes, and the fourth,
or an alternative.
And the fourth option is that, you know, a symbolic number of Palestinian refugees will go back to the current state of Israel, pending that Israel also will accept and will review each application.
Foreign Minister, we're going to take a short break now, and we will be back with Palestine's Foreign Minister Riyad Al-Maliki to talk about the release of the Palestinian prisoners and also proposal of John Kerry to establish a joint Israeli-Palestinian presence on Jordan and West Bank border. Stay with us. And we're back with the Palestinian Foreign Minister Riyad Al-Maliki here in Moscow. Foreign Minister, there is this question that arose recently about Palestinians recognizing the Jewish state. I know that there is a large Arab minority on that, but will you recognize will you recognize the Jewish state if they recognize the Palestinian statehood?
Never. We will never recognize Israel as the Jewish state. We will never do that. Any other country could do that, no problem. Israel could call itself whatever name, that's not a problem. This country used to be the Soviet Union, and right now it's Russian Federation. Iran used to be
Persian Empire.
Persian Empire, and right now it's really the Islamic Republic of Iran. Libya used to be something and then moved to Jamahiriya, something Libya. Each country could call itself whatever it likes, and then they will apply to the United Nations and asking for changing the name. This is really a sovereign decision. It's not really depending on me accepting or not accepting. Now, when it comes to me, then there is what you call it, international law. International law oversights, you know, what you call it, sovereign decisions. And if the sovereign decisions really contradicts with the international law supersede. This is really very important. Now, when it comes to this issue in particular, why the Israelis today, and not when they were negotiating during Oslo, or even after Oslo, why has it become so important now?
Because some politicians in Israel think it doesn't even matter. Why now?
Absolutely. Because Netanyahu wants to complicate matters and wants really to prevent reaching a solution to the conflict. He doesn't want to end the occupation. He doesn't want to see an independent Palestinian state. So he brings into the table a complicated issue like this, knowing in advance that the Palestinians will say no, and he will keep insisting on it. This issue was never, you know, an issue of negotiations. And when we have agreed that there will be a final status issues, we identified them as 6 final status issues. This issue was never part of that 6 final status issues. Why we cannot really accept this? First of all, because, you know, if we accept Israel as a Jewish state, then we are accepting their national narrative. And if we accept their national narrative, then, you know, we are canceling our own national narrative about our connection to the land and about our need to establish an independent Palestinian state. There should be a certain compromise about their narrative and our narrative. You know, the moment that they ask for recognizing their own narrative, then, you know, we are canceling our own. This is really something that we cannot really accept. Secondly, we are worried about the future of the 1.2 or 1.5 million Palestinians who are living in the state of Israel as a minority, a huge minority. And if Israel wants to turn itself into the Jewish state, then, you know, what will happen to such people? Our fear that either they will be expelled or their rights will be reduced from having political rights into having, only what's so-called, practical rights.
But wouldn't all that be subject of negotiations if Palestine thought it was possible to recognize Jewish state? All the points that you're saying right now could be part of negotiations. No?
What's really part of the negotiations is the 6 issues that we have really agreed upon according to Oslo Agreement, and we were invited to come back and to find the solution to the 6 final status issues. If Israel wants to, as I said, wants to call itself the Jewish state of the Zionist nation of Israel, it's up to them to call themselves such a name. They have to ask the United Nations to change their name. We have asked the United Nations that we change our name from Palestine into State of Palestine. They have accepted, and right now our name is State of Palestine. So it's up to them to decide, and they don't need, our approval, for such an application.
When you're talking about Palestinian connections to the Israeli land, Israel insists on keeping Jewish settlements on the occupied territories, or at least when it comes to Jerusalem and the heights of Jerusalem and Hebron. Can Palestine agree to that if there's an equal swap of land that is proposed?
Look, in order to show our readiness to compromise, we have accepted, for free, the principle of territorial swap, acknowledging that maybe Israel needs certain territorial modifications in order to define final borders. And so in principle, we have agreed to this. Now, when we sit to negotiate, we will start negotiating about where and how, the percentage, the ratios, one part of that land in this area, because of its strategic location, it's really equivalent to that amount of land, in other part of area less developed, etc., etc. This is really a technical matter that will be discussed. But the principle has been really agreed, and we have no problem, just to continue discussing about territorial swap.
Mr. Kerry has also proposed a joint Israeli-Palestinian presence on the West Bank Jordan border, but Israel insists on idea of control. What about Palestine? Will you continue to insist on international presence there against any Israeli involvement?
Didn't you just, thought of what, the line of questions? First of all, you were asking about us recognizing the Jewish nature of the state, then us accepting, the settlement situation, then us accepting Israel having almost a permanent military presence. I don't know what kind of Palestinian state it will look like, under such Israeli extra, what you call it, conditions. I think, if we are going to reach an agreement with the Israelis have to accept the fact that, occupation has to end. Their hegemony over the Palestinian life and future has to stop. And they have to realize that, they have to let go the occupation and the notion of hegemony, and to allow the Palestinians to have a free, life, to plan their own future and to have sovereignty over their own territory. But, to add conditions, to make, the Palestinian state less and less sovereign and under the control of the Palestinians, this is not going to play. And it's not going to help us, nor the Israelis, nor the American efforts, or the possibility to arrive at a solution to the conflict. So the more the Israelis are putting conditions, the less the possibility that we will reach to certain understanding. And, we would advise the Israelis, to be realistic and to know that, we, the Palestinians, we cannot accept anything less than full sovereign control over our own territory. We cannot accept to live under the Israeli occupation forever. We cannot allow the presence of one single Israeli soldier on a Palestinian territory. We cannot accept to recognizing Israel as a Jewish state. If they will agree, then there is a possibility for a peace agreement. If not, then of course, as you have asked at the beginning, what are the options? And I told you that there are also few options, but available options for the Palestinians.
Mm-hmm. You actually answered my next question. I was going to ask you what the ideal outcome of the negotiations would be. To the latest news, Israel has recently released 78 long-serving Palestinian prisoners, all convicted of killing Israelis. They're actually promising to release, I think, 26 more in the months to come. So, I mean, I think Tel Aviv is waiting for something in return.
Yes, of course, of course. Well, first of all, let me just explain one thing. First of all, yes, maybe there are Palestinians who have been imprisoned for killing Israelis, but I might ask, who killed the thousands and thousands of Palestinians? I don't know. People from Moon, or they are the Israeli soldiers. So Israeli soldiers also, and Israeli politicians are also, they have blood on their hand, Palestinian blood on their hand. So when we are in conflict, one has to let go also the fact that, accusing one side and neglecting, the participation of the same crime by the other side. Now, when it comes to this issue of the releasing of Palestinian prisoners, Kerry came to us and he struck two deals. One deal that, we will start negotiations and that negotiations will end by 29th of April, hoping that then we will reach a peace agreement between Israel and Palestine. The second deal, he said, well, I know and I heard that you, the Palestinians, are preparing to go to the United Nations and to apply for membership to the different UN agencies to sign to agreements and conventions. How could I, Kerry, convince you not to go or to postpone going? We said, no one will convince us. He said, what kind of price you expect in order for you to postpone going? We said, if Israel will release the 104 Palestinian prisoners who were imprisoned before Oslo agreement, then we will agree to postpone going to the United Nations and to apply for membership for a period of 9 months. So period of 9 months has been mentioned in the two agreements twice. But this is really different agreement that we have reached with Kerry and with Netanyahu. Netanyahu accepted that to release the 104 Palestinian political prisoners on the exchange that we, the Palestinians, will refrain from applying to membership to all UN specialized agencies and not signing to any protocol, UN protocol. So releasing of prisoners, we have paid the price already. In advance, we have agreed not to apply to membership to all these agencies. So the price is being really paid, and we are not going to pay, twice.
Mm-hmm. But those prisoners, when they were released, they got a hero's welcome at home.
Absolutely, yes. Absolutely. The Israeli generals and the soldiers who killed the Palestinians are also decorated, militarily decorated by the Israeli government. This is also part of the narrative. This is really a part of the history in Israel and in Palestine. You cannot pinpoint at what we do in receiving, the Palestinian prisoners as heroes, and don't really overlook or how the Israelis treat their soldiers and the army and the settlers who killed the Palestinians, and then they are received as also heroes. This is really it will stay with us as long as the problem exists. When we conclude an agreement and when we move from a state of war and conflict into a state of peace and cooperation, then, we could really remember how we treated each other along the way. But until then, these issues, will come, will go. People might focus on them or not. But at the end of the day, it's like a mirror. What you see about Palestine, just look at it, and it has reciprocity exactly on the Israeli side. Absolutely, exactly on the Israeli side. It's like a mirror. So when you talk about how we receive our prisoners, always remember how the Israelis receive their soldiers and the settlers who always kill Palestinians.
Foreign Minister, thank you very much for this interview. We wish you all the best in negotiations to come.
Thank you.